What's up guys, ATCZ here, welcome back to Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck of the Day. Today we're profiling the new TCG exclusive deck that came out, and Beetroopers, I think, are one of the best TCG exclusive decks that we've got in such a long time, and I know that it's not that difficult to do comparing it to stuff like Warrocks and Mutants, but finally Konami decided to give us a really good TCG exclusive deck with a lot of potential, and with some more support in the upcoming future, when this deck might actually become a really good tier 1 strategy, because insects are a deck that, even though a lot of people don't realize it because it hasn't been a good insect deck for like such a long time, they have gotten some really good cards in the past few years, and I think that combining them in this deck particularly is going to make a really good deck, and I've been really enjoying playing this deck. It's not that good right now, but can actually steal some games, which I think is really important to be able to go for a good start with the TCG exclusive deck. So I'm going to show you the deck that I've come up with. There are so many other ideas that you can do for an insect deck. I've seen people combining this with Insector and other stuff, but this is more like a Battle Wasp Beetrooper deck, but I'm kind of trying to make the link for the win condition just to make sure that I'm playing more of a Beetrooper deck than an Insector deck or anything else. So yeah, before we begin the video, if you enjoyed, give it a thumbs up, comment down below any other text that you have been enjoying with the deck that you have seen success with, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our upcoming content, and now let's get to the deck profile. So starting off with our Beetroopers, we have 3 copies of Beetrooper Scout Baggy. This card is the main starter of the deck. It's the monster you want to be normal summoning first if you have it, because it just gives you another one from the deck, and then you can just go for your link 2 very easily. And the good thing about this card is that it summons from your hand, deck, or graveyard, so even if you have used the first one to summon the second one, when you top deck the third one, it is not a dead card, which is usually a case with cards like this type of cards because you don't have another one in your deck, but this one can get back from the graveyard, so you can have another monster, and it's a level 3 monster, which is very important because sometimes your hand has too many extenders in your hand that you can go into the link 2 without even using this card, so that means that you can actually go for another monster that we have in the extra deck that will give you a little bit more of interruption. 3 copies of Beetrooper Scale Bomber. Now this card is the extender of the deck. It's basically something that chain blocks your Scout Baggy. When you summon it, you special summon this card from your hand, and it also has a Ghost Logger effect that when your opponent activates a monster effect, you contribute an insect monster to destroy it. It doesn't have to be this card, contribute any insect monster, so that's good too. But also, this card is another level 3 monster which helps you go for that certain monster I'm talking about from the extra deck. So these 2 cards, you absolutely have to max them out because one is the starter and the other one is a chain blocker and the extender. And the last Beetrooper monster is 1 copy of Beetrooper Sting Lancer. You don't really need to play more than one of this card because its own summoning condition is very annoying. You don't really get to use it very often. Most likely you're going to be summoning this with Atlas's effect, so this card is just here to get you search to your trap card. I'd not play the field spell of the deck because there's another field spell for insects that I think works way better as a field spell for any kind of insect deck, no matter what type of insect deck you're playing. So this is why this card only has 1 target for it, at least for now. Hopefully we can get more good spell cards in the future so we can make this card even better, and maybe some more ways to get this card in the field more consistently, because its own effect is a little bit difficult to meet, but still it's a really good card that you can summon easily with another monster's effect and to get search some more disruption. Now I think what has the most synergy with this deck, especially the deck's Link 2, is the Battle Wasp archetype, because the Link 2 gives you an extra normal summon, and when you're looking at insect monsters, when you go for your Scout Baggy and you don't have anything else in your hand that you can normal summon, basically you just get 1 more monster on the field. But with the Battle Wasps monsters, you have so many good normal summons and good extenders that they work with or without the Link 2. So first of all, we have 3 copies of Battle Wasp Albarez the Rapid Fire. So when this card is normal summon, you target a level 3 or lower insect monster in your graveyard, you special summon it in defense. So yeah, pretty much this card just gives you 2 monsters for the price of 1. This is what you want to do when you're going for your Link 4, because you want to be able to get as many monsters on the field as possible after you get the extra normal summon. So yeah, these cards work really well. And another one is 3 copies of Battle Wasp Sting the Poison. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can add a Battle Wasp monster from your deck to your hand. And the reason this is a good card is because there are so many Battle Wasp monsters you can just special summon from your hand right away. So no matter which one you have, you basically get an extra monster on the field, and this is what you're trying to do, because you can get actually the Link 4 on the field and another monster, because there's another insect monster that we got recently that just makes this deck so much better, because it just helps you keep more board presence even after you go for a huge Link 4 play. So basically with just 2 cards you can end for the Atlas on the field and another monster. So yeah, this is why these cards work really well. Now for the extenders, we have 3 copies of Battle Wasp between the attacker. This card, during the main phase, you special summon this from your hand. A lot of these cards lock you into insects, either completely or just from the extra deck, but it doesn't matter because neither in the main deck or the extra deck do we play a monster that is not an insect monster, so you don't really need to care about this restriction. There are a couple monsters in the extra deck that you can play that are not insects that would be a little bit of a help to the deck, but I decided to not to play them just because I don't want to be seeing myself locked out in insects, and then I won't be able to go for pretty much anything that I have in my extra deck. And the last Battle monster is 3 copies of Battle Wasp Pin the Bullseye. This is another extender. If you control an insect, you special summon it, and this card can help help you win in time because it deals 200 damage for it spins the bullseye you control. So if you're getting yourself into time, this card is an easy win condition that you can get, and you can also search with your Sting the Poison. And also, all of these cards, even if you don't have the cards to get them, then if you just hard draw them, they're just extenders, because sometimes, yes, your Scout Buggy is going to get ashed, and then you need another monster on the field in order to be able to go into the Link 2 to go for the extra normal summon, otherwise you're just stuck there. And these cards are those extenders, along with the 3 copies of Scale Bomber. You have 9 extenders you can go to, and there are other spells in your deck that can help you get more monsters on the field, so this is why all of these cards work really well together, and I've been really enjoying the synergy between them. Now, an engine that I've been enjoying in pretty much a lot of Insect decks that I've been trying recently, even way before this deck came out, is the Giant Ballpark engine, because I think this engine gives you so much power in decks that do not really have that much going second power inherently. So this is why this engine, I think, is really good for both spamming and pressuring your opponent. So we have 3 copies of Shiny Black Sea Squatter. This is the best normal monster you can play. You were playing Insect Knight before, but as long as this card exists, I don't see a reason to play Insect Knight. I've seen people play 6 vanillas, but why would you play 6 vanillas when you have Pick of Alena, which is the Insector Link monster, which just shuffles back 3 insects from the grave into the deck and you draw a card. So basically, whenever you want, you can just get 2 insects on the field, link them for that, get all your squatters back into the deck, draw a card, and then your Ballpark is live again. So I don't see a reason to play more than 3. They're already breaky enough at 3, so playing 6, I don't think that's a good idea. So yep, just 3 have been working really well, and I've been enjoying Giant Ballpark, being able to pop cards, get a lot of monsters on the field, and basically get 6,000 attack on the field just with 1 activation. Next, we have some more generic cards. We have 3 copies of Resonance Insect. This is another card that has been really good for insects. This card has so many effects, and that it's not even once per turn. You can basically keep spamming this. So basically, if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add a level 5 or higher insect monster from your deck to your hand. So what you want to do with this card is when you use your extra normal summon, after you use your Link 2, then you go into another Link 3 monster, and then this will get you Search, and there is a monster that can use its second effect, which is if this card is banished, you can send an insect from your deck to the grave, and there is a high level monster you can add that will get this card banished immediately, while also giving you another extender. So then you can send the next card to the grave, which is 3 copies of Gokipol, and if this card is sent to the grave, you can add a level 4 insect monster from your deck to your hand, and if it was a normal monster, you summon it and you destroy a monster with attack greater or equal to the monster you special summoned. So basically, if you want to pop something, you get your Squatter, then you pop something that has 2,000 or more attack, but there are some other cards you can search, like your Battle Wasp Albaresta Rapid Fire, because it's a level 4, so you're not restricting only into searching your vanilla. So yep, this card is actually really good, and I think maxing them out is important, just because even if you get them in your hand, having the extra normal summon means that all these cards can be live, and because the Link 3 exists, then you can just go for it very easily, while also getting access to your Atlas and both those effects. So yep, I really like maxing these cards out. And for the one-offs, we play 1 copy of Doomdozer. This is a card you're going to be searching with your Resonance Insect first, because it's going to banish your Resonance Insect from the grave. You banish 2 insects to special summon this card from your hand. It's another insect on the field, and of course it triggers the banishing effect of Resonance Insect, so this card is really good. But we also play 1 copy of Kumongoose, because even if you have the Doomdozer, or if you have searched the Doomdozer, like I said, Resonance Insect is not a once per turn effect, so there's a good chance that you can use its effect more than once in a turn, and maybe you can use it later as well if you can't use it the same turn, and then you can search something that's really good going second. Being able to search a Kaiju in any deck is good. I remember back in the day when people used to play 1 copy of Dogoran in the dinosaur decks in order to be able to search it, and they don't need it anymore, but this deck actually needs it because it's not nearly as powerful as a dinosaur deck these days, but still being able to search a searchable Kaiju is just insane for any type of deck. For the spell cards, we have 3 copies of Giant Ballpark. This card is a powerhouse. This card, when you're going to take damage, then you can just make that damage 0 and then send level 4 lower insect monster from your deck to the grave. This can already send Gokipol, which is going to search you something, but if you want to go a little bit further, if you send a normal monster, you can special summon all 3 copies of that normal monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard, and then you can just have so many monsters on the field that you can pressure your opponent. So yeah, this card is absolutely incredible. The reason you can put so much damage on the field very quickly with this deck is because of this card, because otherwise you are going to be relying on your Atlas, which has an effect to boost itself, but you don't really want to do that because it loses protection if you do that. So relying on this card to put more damage on the field rather than activating Atlas's suicidal effect, I think is actually better, because you're going to lose your monster very easily if you try to boost it to 5k, because it only protects itself if it has 3000 or less attack, so your opponent can get rid of it very easily. So I think not using this effect ever, but relying on cards like this to put more damage on the field is actually much more optimal. 1 copy of Terraforming, because Giant Ballpark is that broken, so you want to search it as consistently as possible. 1 copy of Foolish Burial for the Gokipol, just searching your monster. When you're going second, this card just gets you so much more value, because you can just search the Gokipol, then search your Squatter, special summon it, pop something, and you either bait negates or you get rid of stuff before you even commit to a normal summon. So this card gives you a lot of value. And going first, you can search your Rapid Fire, so you have the extra normal summon to go for something good if you don't have another extender. So yeah, it's a really good card. One copy of Gold Sarcophagus. Because of Resonance Insect, you just use this and basically get the exact same value as getting your Foolish Burial, because Resonance Insect is a Foolish Burial when it gets banished, so you're just going to send your Gochipole most of the time. And 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance. You can replace this with Prosperity if you want, but to be honest, you don't really need to, because you only play 5 monsters in the extra deck and you max out on all of them, so it's not like you actually need to pick and choose which ones to banish, because the chances of banishing all 3 of one copy are very low when you play it like this. So I think having the extra +1 with Extravagance is much more important, and of course, it's much more budget than Prosperity. And the last card is the Trap card. It's 1 copy of Beetrooper, Fly and Sting. Now, the reason you only need to play 1 copy of this card is because it just recycles itself all the time. So what this card does, it's basically an Infinity Barrier for monster effects. You just destroy them when they activate and you negate the effect. But during your end phase, if it's in your graveyard and you control an insect monster with 3000 or more attack, which is usually your Atlas, then you can banish an insect monster from your graveyard and set this card. So what this card does is that it's a self-recurring card that keeps negating stuff. You can only use 1 of those effects per turn, so it's not like during your turn you can negate something and then get it back on the same turn. It's not going to work like that, so most of the time you're going to be negating on your opponent's turn. But this card has more synergy than you think, because you can banish your Resonance from the graveyard, so you can get the Foolish Burial effect. So on top of getting back an Infinity Barrier-like card, you also trigger a utility effect in the grave to get a search with your Gochipole. So yeah, I think this card is broken, and you need to play only 1 just because of that effect. And even if it gets the Decrod, it's not the end of the world, because you don't really need it to win. This card is just something that gives you a little bit more control. In a non-controlled deck, this deck actually tries to control a little bit during the first turns to make sure your opponent doesn't make an insane board or OTKs you, and then you can come back and kill them during the next turn because you have so much pressure with your Atlas and your Ballpark. So yeah, this card is a good searchable card with your Sting Lancer. You don't need to play more than 1. Now for the extra deck, we have 3 copies of Beetrooper Armor Horn. This is the Link 2 that you need to be summoning most of the time first, because what it does is it gives you an extra normal summon for an insect monster, so you have so many good cards to summon with this card, and then when you try to do that, your end goal is summoning 1 of the 3 copies of your Beetrooper Invisible Atlas. So this card is the boss monster. So what it does, if it's Link summoned and it has 3000 or less attack, your opponent cannot target it with card effects and cannot be destroyed by card effects. So yeah, this card is just really good. Your opponent is going to have a really hard time dealing with it, and it has a lot of utility. So you can tribute an insect monster to activate 1 of 2 effects. Either you special summon a Beetrooper from your deck, or it gains 2000 attack till the end of this turn. So the first effect is what you're going to be using 99% of the time, mainly first going for your Sting Lancer and then going for more monsters. The second effect might seem a little bit tempting when you're trying to go for a game, but it puts this card at risk, because if it has more than 3000 attack, then your opponent can destroy it and target it, so it's going to be a very easy target to deal with. So I think this is why I said going for more damage with cards like Ballpark instead is more important, because even if you fail to OTK, you still have a monster your opponent is going to have a hard time dealing with before you try to use this card's effect. Then your opponent just gets rid of it right away, and then you don't have another monster on the field. So yep, I think you should never use this effect unless you're absolute certain that your opponent is not going to do anything to it and you can game your opponent with it. Now for more insect monsters, we have 3 copies of Insector Picofalina. This card is an Insector monster, like I said, didn't play Insectors, but this card is just so generic, so good for insects that it just hurts my eye when people don't play this card in any insect deck, because this card is basically a Pot of Avarice. You put back 3 insect monsters in your deck, you draw a card, and then you can use your Giant Ballpark over and over again, which is the reason you don't need to play more than 3 copies of Vanillas for your Giant Ballpark. And it also has an effect that if it's Link summoned, you can discard a card and target 1 other insect monster you control, and then equip an insect monster from your deck to that monster. This effect was meant to equip Insector cards, but when you equip stuff like your Gochipole, your Resonance Insect, then you link away the monster you used it to equip on with this card to go for Link 3. On top of getting the Link 3 on the field, you also get the effect from your graveyard, because they are on the field when they're equipped, so you're going to get Resonance Insect effect. So yeah, this card is absolutely amazing. It's really good. Now the Link 3 is 3 copies of Seraphim Papillon. This card is so amazing because it gives you the power to go for your Atlas while also keeping another monster on the field to go for Atlas's effect to summon your Sting Lancer from the deck. Otherwise, you would need to summon another extender in order to be able to do that, which is not possible in every single hand. But this card, I can basically describe it as Selene for insect monsters. It's basically the same thing. So what it does, if it's Link summoned, you place a counter on it for each insect monster you use as material. Usually you're going to get 2 counters, and it has a quick effect that you can remove a counter to special summon level 4 or lower insect from your grave in defense. So you're going to summon this with your Link 2, then get another monster from your grave and go for your Link 4 with 2 monsters instead of having to go for 3 monsters. And it's a good thing because Atlas says 2+ insect monsters. Hopefully this would have been just such a bad thing if it had said 3 or more monsters, like something like a Borolo Dragon, but thankfully it doesn't because of this card making it so much better. So you keep another monster on the field to use Atlas's effect on to tribute to special summon your Sting Lancer, and then you search your trap card because you don't have to commit another card. So basically, if you have 2-card combos in a deck like this that you can get a decent feel on the field, then that's pretty good for a start, and then you have the potential to OTK during the following turn. So I think that's a really good job right there for all the generic support that we've got for insects and for the Beetrooper archetype itself right now. The synergy is absolutely perfect. And the last card I play is 3 copies of number 3 Cicada King. I just wanted something more to be able to interact my opponent on top of the trap card, because in a deck like this, you have to fit a lot of cards in the deck in order to make it work, because if you try to fit a lot of hand traps, then you're going to lose in a lot of hands to yourself because you're not going to have a lot of cards that you can play with. And I think that if you cannot play like 9 or more hand traps in a deck, playing less actually is not very optimal, because one hand trap doesn't usually beat the decks these days. They're so consistent and so powerful that one hand trap doesn't stop them 90% of the time unless their hand is not optimal. But still, I think being able to go into this on top of the trap card makes it a lot better. And being a rank 3 monster means that you can use cards like your Scout Baggy, your Scale Bomber to be able to go into that, even your Goki Pole if you extra normal summon that. So this card needs 2 level 3 monsters, and it's basically a giant hand for rank 3. So you just negate something and it gains 500 defense, and being able to have a 3k defender that can use this effect to negate effects is actually really good, because your opponent is not going to be able to deal with it very easily because it does have a lot of defense. So yep, I think if you're trying to go for an optimal turn 1 board, you should strive to go for your Atlas, your trap card, and this on the field, and then you can just pressure your opponent next turn to be able to go for OTK with cards like your Ballpark. So yep, that's the deck, guys. I'm really looking forward to see what Konami comes up with to make this deck even better, because I can tell that so far the effects are really good, but they're really basic. You know, if you're just thinking of the first effects that come in your mind, this is basically what this deck is. It doesn't have any particularly weird and niche interactions so far, but I'm pretty sure we're going to get those cards eventually. So I'm just hoping that Konami makes really good support so we can finally have again an insect deck in the tier 1 tables, because it's been like 10 years ever since Inzectors were there. So I'm really hoping that we can get that. And on top of that, we're also getting the new Inzector card. So maybe if it's generic enough, then we can combine this with Inzectors as well, so we can have even more variety. So yep, that's the deck, guys. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our upcoming videos, and we'll see you next time.